Hi there, welcome to the PEAQ Wyckoff Technical Analysis session. So if you are new to this, I'm going to draw all the key levels as well as the Wyckoff tags on this raw chart right in front of you. So be patient. If you're not new to this, you know what's going to happen next, so I don't have to explain further. So let's get started. Here, I'm going to borrow the tags from the other charts, and right before that I just want to pick something that has a similar price scale. Currently this is, I think, a 2 decimal points would be sufficient. So Doge, I think, yeah, that's good enough. And I just want to shrink it enough so we can see all the key levels. The nice rainbow color. So I'm going to copy all these lines plus the key Wyckoff tags. So we've got the bind climax, preliminary supply, automatic reaction, second test, sign of weakness, last point of supply, and then preliminary support, selling climax, automatic rally, second test, sign of strength, last point of support. There's no backup, but it's fine. PSY, yep, I think, yeah, spring and test we can add those if PEAQ has it those, but PEAQ, according to some people's way of saying, it's basically flat as a table. I don't disagree. After this massive drop during the beginning of this year, indeed it's really flat, but other than this week, you see this huge volume bar that's going on right now. So while it's a real challenge with this very short history, only started from November last year, it's not even a year yet, and I don't know whether it will ever come back. But let's give it a bit of analysis and see what we can find out. So I have to unlock all these key levels so we can edit them. You can select all, holding control, and then unlock them if you're new to trading view. And these tags, it's making the chart a bit too busy to see. Just drag them aside. Likewise for the accumulation cycle tags. Right up there. Yep, and that's not going to block us. So let's start with the red, the lowest key level. I'll just drag it right over there. That's the lowest point. Let's set auto, enlarge the scale, and switch off auto. Then you'll get to the scale you want. That's the quicker way instead of like scrolling it like 20-50 times. Okay, that's roughly it. That's point 0.06 or 0.58. Let's try 0.6 and see what happens. I don't want to make it too complicated because we all know it's a range, so it's fine if it's 0.06. Well, a bit of wicks out there, but we know the candle bodies never closes beyond this level, so if it happens, it's probably the apocalypse type of scenario for PEAQ. Okay, now, next one. Orange key level. Let's bring it down. We see a couple of candles over here, right? So my rule of thumb, if you're not new, you know I always try to pick somewhere with at least 4 candles that I can reference. So right at this point, I've got these 4 already, plus this one 5th, 6th. These 2 close enough, but like 6 is more than enough, so that's a good reference key level. That's 0.115, so I'll just put 0.11. And let's lock these 2 first, and then now get to the yellow key level. Again, let's pick 4 points. This week's candle isn't there yet, but it's getting pretty close. So I say somewhere around here. That's 0.14. Why? If you have quick eyes, you probably have spotted those already. This one over here 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 reference points. So not bad. And then green key level. I've restrained this now because I'm trying to see where the prices got to when it dropped. Okay, it's getting trickier because we're getting to a point where we've got very little references. I will put it around here. That's 0.17 roughly. If you want to be exact, you can just come and delete the subsequent ones. The line will then be flat and at where you want that to be. So why I'm choosing here. So this one, even though the wick went way above, it closes somewhere close enough, and this white candle, this red candle, these two over there, it's more or less around that level. So that's why I'm choosing this spot as the other key level. And then light blue key level, yeah, it's clear enough, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right over there. So 2.45, let's say, make it simpler, 2.5, no, 0.25, not 2.5. Yeah, so that's where it goes. And the text, 0.25. Okay, have a look at the green one. Yes, I have. Now get to the blue. Now we get to a point there's very little references. However, even though that's a big range, it's still fine because that was long candle, so just one candle without any overlapping candles when it went up. So it's okay that we put it around this level. Again, close enough that we have multiple reference points. So here, the two, one head, one tail, and then these two wicks getting very close enough. This head, but this tail isn't too far, so like give and take, that's a good reference point, even though it's a very like outside of the norm peak right over there. So that's 0.45. There we go. The final key level, the purple. This one, yeah, definitely there's not sufficient like 4 point that's close enough, but I'm gonna just move it somewhere between these two and these two. So somewhere around 0.65, I would say. Sometimes you have to adjust it later when the coin becomes more mature. So these, when you start with like a new coin, you have to go through some of these processes. Okay, the key levels are defined, and we're going to plug in the buying climaxes. Let's do this one, and then automatic reaction right over there. This, let's say that's an upthrust. You can call it a second test. For me, I mentioned many times, it doesn't matter because subsequent tests, whether you give it an upthrust of the distribution, like for peaks higher than the buying climax, they're still tests basically. Just that people are willing to FOMO in, and that's the thing. Preliminary supply, sign of weakness, that's not exactly it, so I'll skip that for now. That's more like a LPSY, but very weak one. There's not even like a bulge over there, but that's okay. And then preliminary support. The selling climax should be somewhere around here. Automatic rally. And second test, and more tests here. So I'll make it simple just to put a test. You see multiple tests, the whole line over there. If I change it to a line chart, you see there were multiple. And eventually, the point we're getting to, it may be a sign of strength. We don't know yet. It hasn't even climbed to pass the yellow key level of 0.14. Ideally, it should go to challenge the 0.17. So for now it's still early, but the volume is absolutely astounding. LPS or backup, not appearing yet, so I'm going to park it on the side until it happens. So that's the big picture. We may be somewhere near the middle or late stage of accumulation. Now let's take a look at how it looks like in the daily. So daily, again, let's borrow some text from Doge. Here we've got preliminary support, selling climax, automatic rally, spring, sign of strength, backup, last point of support, buying climax, automatic reaction, second test, LPSY, selling climax. And oh, that's another selling climax. I don't need that. I need a sign of weakness actually. So I think we're good to go, because up first we can just change second test to an up first tag. PEAQ USD, and we were with crypto.com, right? Yeah, correct. Yeah, so because it has a longer history, Kraken is like somewhere a few months back. So let's paste the tags over here. Let's say if that was the buying climax, that's probably the PSY period. And then obviously it came down for an automatic reaction, and then that's, I copied the sign of weakness, and remember it should be there. And then it went up to not even up first, it's just in like a second test over there. And it came down to another sign of weakness, and eventually LPSY, last point of supply, and then it continues the downtrend. Somewhere this is the preliminary support and selling climax, plus an automatic rally to the light blue key level. And is there any second test I copied? No, it's already gone over there. So that's the second test. And I think we had one sign of strength in the daily chart that challenged the green level back in mid-May, and now we are getting more tests, and you can call those springs. Basically, a deep test way below the selling climax or even earlier second test, and eventually it may show us a new sign of strength. So we had one back in mid-May, now it seems like it's heading towards that point. This, again, too early to tell, just park it on the side for the time being. So, one more check with Bollinger Band corner squeeze. Let's switch off all those lines. So, when this happened back in mid-May, there was a squeeze over there. So you see these shades, this vertical straight like shades at the back. That means according to the Bollinger Band corner squeeze indicator, a squeeze is happening. For me, I consider that like when the purple lines are getting close enough or touching the orange, even though the shades hasn't appeared on the chart yet, I'll consider a squeeze is happening. So back in late April, it started right over there. April 28th, the squeeze started, and then eventually it went to the downside, and then when the squeeze force finally released, it swung back to the other side of the channel. So it was at the channel bottom, and then it swung to the other side, going past the Bollinger Band, and then just to rebound to another decline. And the next one, the next squeeze here, not much of a, like, there was still a swing towards the downside this time, but not as crazy as what happened back in May. So what we had in July, between mid-July to end July, that squeeze only squeezed the price down by a little compared to what happened in May. And now, another squeeze has happened. So even though the shades aren't there, you see the purple lines and the orange lines are basically, I don't know how to explain, intertwined together. So they're dancing together basically. And then now the squeeze force has been released after how many days? 17 days or even longer. If I look at the lines according to my own definition, I will count it that started on the 16th of August and it lasted for 25 days already. Now the time for the force to be released, and we have got to a point that hits a certain roadblock we already covered. Basically, it's trying to challenge the yellow key level, but it hasn't reached that point yet, and it's already being rejected. I think it's because some of the activities right over here, even though it looks jagged, but you see some form of resistance right over there. So let me enlarge it. So it's not that obvious because the daily chart is just too busy. So if I draw a line here, you'll be able to see what's happening or what's going on. So this line right here, let me change it to a dashed line so we're not going to mix up with the others. So what's happening here is you see these bunch of candles, right? These lines was supposed to be their support line. Likewise here, and then we've got some resistance for these down up candles, likewise here, and a bunch here as well, also here, earlier in March. So there is an intermediate level between these key levels right here. So when the price got to around this level, that's where it got rejected. And why it's staying at this point? Because once again, there's another line here. So you see these bunch of candles finding support earlier in March. These couple find it resistance, support, resistance, and likewise for those here. So another intermediate level between the key levels of orange and yellow. So that's why we've seen the price rejected at that, and then now it's staying somewhere around another intermediate level. So that's just simple as that. I just want to keep these lines on current interval, the daily only, instead of messing around with the other time intervals. So for now, ideally, PEAQ may be heading towards a new distribution cycle, but it's still too early to tell, because even if the price shoots up past the green key level, the 0.17, and reaches a new sign of strength, you see what happened after sign of strength, right? It doesn't always come to the backup LPS platform period and then shoots up. It can come down for some more tests and accumulate at a lower level before it goes skyrocket. So even if we are so positive about this, not that I am, and it's just a possibility to me, but for those people that are bullish and hoping PEAQ to go up, yeah, just be mindful. Even if it passes the green key level, there's still a chance for it to have a price retracement before it shoots up to a distribution cycle, much like what we see here. This sharp drop is obviously causing a lot of broken hearts, basically. But then if it's really getting to the end of an accumulation cycle and heading towards a sign of strength, and eventually a buying climax, irrespective of where the climax would be, it may end up somewhere between the light blue key level and the blue key level. That's already a pretty positive scenario. If it ends up higher to somewhere challenging the purple key level, that's a very good news, because basically the support from the community hasn't died down even after this crazy move. Well, we can't blame PEAQ, because we know as a fact that other altcoins might have exhibited similar behavior after the end of last year or early this year, the beginning of this year, because that was just the distribution period for a lot of altcoins, and a lot of altcoins has entered this prolonged accumulation period since then. So it's almost 2/3 of a year now, basically. So hopefully it's heading towards the upside, towards the new buying climax, but don't get overexcited if it gets to the blue key level of 0.45. That's a pretty good sign already. Best is going to hit the purple. So that's something that along the process would eventually happen if PEAQ is still getting some support or love from the community. So for now, that's all for PEAQ. I'm going to move on to the next new coin I'm going to cover. See you over there. Cheers.